edition of the TV session brought to you by Manna Consulting Limited and the UO team. This is for people that are joining us for the first time. This is our team building session where we bring out topics to teach and educate ourselves in the profession and the career. So today's topic is a topic that concerns all of us, especially in the construction industry. So we're looking briefly at a topic that says economic decision making in the construction industry, a sustainable tool for suitable alternative selection. Economic decision making in the construction industry, sustainable tool for suitable alternative selection. And my name is Gideon Ian, and within the course of the next few minutes, I'll be taking you through my thoughts on how economic decision making in the construction industry can enhance our selection of a suitable alternative. So let's begin our journey. Next slide. Now, the construction industry itself is a subset of the overall AEC. AEC standing for Architecture, Engineering, and Construction. So, construction itself is a subset of AEC, of the AEC industry. And being a subset, it has everything to do with architecture, engineering, and construction. Now there are a lot of professions that come to play when it has to do with AEC. We have the engineers, we have the architects, we have the quantity surveyors, we have we have engineers of different disciplines because in a building you have the civil parts, mechanical and electrical. Then you have the quantity surveyors, you have the surveyors themselves, you have also the people in the environmental, career paths that have one or two responsibilities or roles intertwined in the AEC. So AEC is the sorry is the so is so we've seen the acronym AEC: engineering, architecture, and construction. So the construction industry itself is not estranged to alternative selection. You see, the construction industry is always loaded with project. If there is anything that is known, the construction industry is known for its project. When one there is anything that is to be done in the country or in the region, and then has to do with things coming up in construction, is always a project. And so it's not the industry itself is not estranged, it's not alienated from alternatives. Right. And as their alternative, there has to be a selection. So that scenario of always selecting an alternative is always predominant in the construction industry. Okay, let's move on. So now, if you look at this video, I don't know if you get a handle on the video. It's a video we can play. Wow. So if you look at that, you see animation. This is like a construction project. Usually when the consultants are um, presenting a project to the client, usually they'll present a 3D model of the of the project. Now, why do you present the 3D model? So as to enhance the understanding of the client and all the major key players in the project, so that all the stakeholders and all the shareholders will be able to have a feel of what it looks like. The project, like you can see, that's like a 3D model You know, 3D is simply three-dimensional, showing the various aspects of the project. This is a sample project of a project in China, and being presented in a 3D format. Now, I've mentioned here that there is 3D, there is 4D, and there is 5D. Now, I think just hold the video. Can you hold the video? Good. So, now the 3D model is just an object or something presented in three dimensions. What do we mean by three dimensions? We mean the length, the breadth, and then the height. But now there is this other concept that I've mentioned here, the 4D and the 5D. I know the world is moving into even 7D and 8D and all the dimensions. So we're going to look at about 4D because for the purpose of this presentation, we'll really explore what these three dimensions listed here, um, what is their importance and role in economic decision making. So 3D we said is three dimensions presentation. Now let's see what 4D is. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, right. So amidst the advancement in modeling and simulation of alternatives in three-dimensional and four-dimensional amidst the advancement, presentation of projects in three dimensions to show in reality how this project will look like. There is a 4D and a 5D component, which we just listed in the previous slide, and these components come to play such crucial role, especially with the aid of building information modeling in projects, especially mega projects. Now, in a moment, I'm going to really unveil what the 4D and the 5D stand for. But in countries like the US, UK, Canada, Norway, and Finland, Denmark also, these countries have been recited to be some of the leading countries in the world that are making serious efforts in exploring the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension potentials in the AEC. Right. So now what's this four dimension and three dimension? So alright. So now before I get to what the four next time, before I get to what the four dimensions and three dimensions five dimensions are, let me just bring our minds back to what the project is. The project is a collection of activities meant to fulfill a particular goal or to obtain a certain outcome. We've already mentioned that. So, for example, we have a building project at the end, we are looking for a building. We have a bridge project at the end, we want to put a river crossing. But an alternative is a stand-alone description of a viable solution to the problem that can meet the objective of the project. So like that alternative, what an alternative thing means is like a subset of the project. So a project can be like, all in like the overall the universal set, while alternatives are like the little parts of that parts that make up the project. So like in a building project, a building is constructed, it may be a bungalow, story building, or high rise, may be selected depending on the blend of factors influencing the alternative. Every project has a time, budget, and scope component. Now let's come back to the 4D and the 3D. So the 3D, we said, helps us to see what the object looks like. Help us to see what the object looks like. Now, the 4D is the time component. I just mentioned that every project has the time, the cost, and the scope component. So that 4D that was mentioned in previous slides refers to the time component. What does it help us to see? It helps us to see how long the project will last, when it will be completed, when you get to a certain stage, right now in the construction industry, in the AEC, in the AEC, we have softwares that are able to simulate
before
the
training.
the process time, the stage time, the stage time of a project. For example, with such softwares like Navis Works, InfraWorks, and all and the rest, you could actually see what if a project is starting in January. You could see what stage of that project will be completed by July. What will we arrive at in October, or will we arrive at in December? And if the project is to span a period of years, you can also check by the second year, by the third year, how will you. So that's the time component, that's the 4D. And most countries, like those countries I've mentioned, the US and the UK, they have already explored this aspect of 4D. They are bringing 4D into their designs. So that when you are presenting your drawings at the government, or you have a government project, a massive project that you're handling, you have to also submit to them the, the full dimension of that project. So they also know what where that project stands at a particular time. But above beyond the 4D is the 5D that I mentioned. Now, the 5D is the fifth dimension, which is the cost dimension. Remember that we said that the project has cost, time, and scope. So, scope 3D has a way of defining that, cost 4D has a way of defining that, and then 5D is, is the cost aspect. Now, that cost aspect is very important because that cost aspect is able to redefine what and how long the project will cost. For example, if a if a project, if a project may take longer time, it may take a smaller shape depending on the cost. So it is this fifth dimension that has the capacity of redefining what and how long that project will be. Right. So now that fifth dimension is very important because it's what leads us to our topic, the economic decision making, the economic decision making process, and that's where under that 5D is where the economic decision making comes into play. Um, Permit me to view the word economics there through the lens of engineering economics because we are in the AEC industry, so engineering definitions of concepts can really enhance our understanding. So let's see how this dimension can really help us. So engineering economics is actually has been defined by Lenan and Anthony as a science that evaluates the expected outcome of an alternative that is designed. Engineering economics has been defined by Lenan and Anthony as a science that evaluates the expected outcome of alternatives that are designed. So when the project is going on, there are various alternatives that are designed. There are various solutions that remember we talked about alternative. An alternative is a standalone solution. It's like we want to make something that holds water. Someone says, let's make a jug. Someone says, let's make a cup. Another person says, let's make a kettle. Those are alternatives. So engineering economics is that science that helps us to evaluate the expected outcome of that alternative. So we look at this alternative, the cup, the jug, the kettle. Which one will serve us better? Which one will give us the desired outcome? Perhaps we want to be boiling the water, and that's what we want to achieve. Therefore, we need something that is metallic, something that can sit on the stove, and that means we'll probably go for a kettle. If we just need something that holds much amount of water, to be on the table always, maybe we can go for a jug. And if it's just to drink water every now and then, you can go for a cup. So this applying the knowledge base from engineering economics helps us to really assess, you know, the the expected outcome of. And mind you, as a science, it means that it uses methods tools and techniques. Science uses method, tools, and techniques. Like what are those tools that I use? You use tools like the rate of return, the return on investment, the time value of money, the present, the annual, the future work analysis, break even, cash flow, budget, benefit, and help. He uses all these tools to help us to arrive at a more desirable alternative. Right? Are we together?
Yeah.
Okay. So with this in mind, let's have a little exercise. Now, supposing a solution to a water crossing is needed at a low point. Usually, when we go out for survey, we find out that we have um, we have a negative. We call it a negative grade. We have a positive grade. Grade means slope like this, and that's slope. So at that point where they intersect, forms a low point, right? So we have such low point, and usually the characteristics of that low point is that it may have a river crossing like this. So supposing a solution to water crossing is needed at a low point, and then on our alternatives are, are given. What are the alternatives we have here? We have one bridges,
Bridge.
we have
Convert.
culverts, and we have trench drain.
Friend.
And the the accompanying cost of these alternatives are also listed. The bridge will cost 50 million, the culvert 1.5 million, and then the trench drain half a million. Now let's see how we can let's go on to our exercise. Now, just for clarity, the one on the right is the bridge. The one on the right is the bridge. The middle is the culvert, and then the last one is the French drain. Just for clarity. So the bridge, the culvert, the French drain. Now, if supposing we were to provide a solution to a crossing, knowing those various cost components. Now, I've listed out some factors that can help us make a decision, and I want us to, you know, I want to pray by indulgence that we make um uh let's do a little exercise. Let's choose the alternative next time. Now, supposing in this our problem, right, we have bridge, culvert, and French drain. If the consideration here is lifespan, which one would we go for? Bridge. We go for the bridge. Now, because the bridge has 100 years. Now, if the consideration is cost, which one would we go for? The French drain, because the French drain has 0.5 million. Now, if it is the period of design and construction, we want the product to be completed as soon as. Which one would we go for? French drain. French drain, because it has 2 weeks. And on a scale of 1 to 10, if we are to rate the social benefits, which one would we go for? Bridge. Bridge, right? And then if we were to look at the return on the investment, which one would we go for? French drain. The French drain. So you see that different factors has a way of influencing the economic decision making process. And in this example, I said let the economic consideration be social benefits and the ROI. And in this case, if you take in social benefit and the ROI, you find that the bridge offers a high social benefit, yet a very low ROI. The French drain offers a high ROI but a low social benefit. But the culvert is somewhere in between, right? So if that on that basis, for me personally, I would choose the culvert because in between these two alternatives. Now, this goes beyond just the construction industry to our day-to-day activities, because in the construction industry, apart from choosing engineering design, engineering making engineering decisions on alternative, we can also make engineering decisions as a company. So if you go to the next slide, you find the comparison between a bus and a pickup lot. Now, you see, if the construction industry wants to get a vehicle right now, and then something that will enhance their performance, something that will enhance their performance. Now, if it is choosing based on how they will say ruggedity of the terrain, or how rugged the terrain is, I think they'll probably go for a pickup lot, right? Now, if it is number of staffs to be carried, a bus may be considered. If it is the cost, 17 million against 25 million. Now look at the last component there, which is what? The last component is the mileage. So mileage is 15,000 miles per year, 15,000 miles per year. Now, when we are making, this is a rule of thumb. Anytime we are making economic decisions on alternatives, when we find those factors like that mileage that is same in one alternative and same in the other alternative, those kind of alternatives are called irrelevant items. Are we together? So these irrelevant items don't come into play in economic decision making, because they do not give us any basis for comparison. And so if the economic consideration here was budget, then, well, for me, the bus would have been taken. Right? So these are some of the things that will help us to, some of the tools that will help us to know how to make good decisions as regarding alternative. So some concepts are necessary to begin alternative selection, which include alternatives. We have to know how to decipher what are alternatives. We have to know about budgets. We have to learn about ROIs. We have to learn about cash flow. What's cash flow? How the cash flow has to do with money coming in, money leaving. We have to know the time value of money. Time value of money has to do with this amount of money in 2020 is not the same value to have in 2023, not the same value to have in 2025. So that time value of money will help us to determine which alternative should we go for. And of course, we also have to know about the break-even, because the break-even will tell us if we take this alternative, if we go for this alternative, we will be able to make profit or not. Break-even is that middle line where you are neither making profit nor you are losing. So if we want to go for this particular alternative, will this give us a break? Will this give us a value beyond break-even? These are some of the things that we do. And of course, there are several other tools, necessary concepts, which we have to learn, so that we can enhance our alternative selection. Because, gentlemen, this issue of selecting an alternative, it can be very, very, very slippery decision to make, especially when you are faced with several alternatives. You see a child that runs into the market to buy toys, and then all of a sudden they give him all the toys. He's with the money, he doesn't know what to choose. So he just starts staring around and say, I want all. And at the end of the day, the toy does not give him the satisfaction he wants. So, what is my conclusion? My conclusion is, as we have found ourselves in this gigantic industry, the AEC industry, which has to do with projects, from time to time we need to make decisions on alternatives. It is it is my humble submission that we have to be deliberate and intentional about um, choosing alternatives, about alternative selection, because this is what will enhance us with our productivity in our career, help us to make the right choices, help us to save costs, help us to deliver the project on time, and help us to also deliver a return on that investment. And of course, it will also help us to foster social benefit to the communities and the place and the regions in which we are offering these solutions to. So I want to at this point thank you for being attentive. Now for studies, you may I recommend the material there which we could get our hands on, and the link to the material is on the description which is below. So thank you very much for paying attention. Thank you very much for your attention. I like it when you are quiet, because as you quiet, as I sense in my spirit that everything I've been said is being assimilated. And my prayer is that God will give us the grace, God will enhance our abilities and make us grow in the profession which we have found ourselves. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's a very, very lovely one. You have also learned a lot of things from it. Okay, so I want to sincerely appreciate the presenter, giving on Gideon for his good presentation, good knowledge sharing. And then it's time for us to also, if you have questions or contributions, to be able to ask or ask. So he's more than capable to also answer any question in this direction. So please go ahead, feel free to ask your question in the next few minutes or contribution.
I still remain with the new one. I don't really know whether my okay, what I'm going to see now is a question or it's a question, but at the end of the day, we won't remain because when cost, time, and quality is mentioned, I'm not left behind.
Yes.
Most times, why choosing a particular alternative you are looking for? It's always of these things. You cannot do away with them, even if the cost might be high. Sometimes you also have to consider the time. Why am I saying so? You consider the time positively and negatively. You mentioned what is it? The third while constructing for runway or the low points. You mentioned the last one, fendering. You mentioned the other one, bridge.
Yes.
You see, in due course, the bridge might take 4 years to construct,
Yes.
but it will take up to 30 years to last.
It will take 100 years.
To last.
Yes.
But fendering, you say at the long run,
Yes.
it will spoil.
Yes.
And you are constructing 0.5 today at the present. Should in case it spoiled at maybe the next 4 years, it will take us maybe like 1.5 to construct.
Yes.
So if you keep multiplying it till the 100 years, you see at the end of the day, you end up spending more than as if you knew you would have constructed the bridge at once and just go your way.
Okay.
But sometimes that's on the negative side.
Yes.
But on the positive side, it will save you what you wanted to for the meantime. You want to have the huge sum you can now do. So that's why I said I don't know whether my question is a good one.
Okay, thank you very much. You see, the dimensions are equally important. All the dimensions are equally important. Now, for from the 3D dimensions, the 4D to the 5D. The 4D as a time dimension and then the 5D dimension. You see, this project has several influences. Sometimes time can be the principal influence. Like we want this thing to be completed in the shortest possible time. Sometimes it can be cost, can be the deciding factor. Sometimes also it can be a combination of cost and time. So the thing becomes a bit more tricky at that particular point. So, but if you look at it, if for instance, maybe the route has been has been designated for a full bridge construction in the future. Maybe it's a major trade route which will connect regions, maybe states or countries. And for the time being, these people have a very bad road. They cannot even take their food stuff from this part to this other part. So at that point, time has to do, and then cost also has to do. Because these people will have to please just give us a solution so that this place, if it rains, we can still ride our bicycles or our bikes and then pass this particular place. That's where the time and the cost come into play. So at that point, where time and cost are the two prominent factors and dimensions, there has to be a compromise. There has to be a compromise at that point so that a suitable alternative could be selected, which will not also in the long which will not hinder because at the end of the day, the project that the alternative that we are providing, the solution that we are bringing, has direct impact on the lives of people. That's the social aspect. So if it has a way of cushioning the social aspect, at least before the people curse you and say, you are not doing well, you help them till when the thing is ready. However, it is not so. It is always a better decision to go for an alternative that will take the test.
Very good one. Contribution before I really ask my own. Okay, so my question will be in the Nigerian setting, I always like this bring down to the grass, maybe even more as you have said. It's already been applied in many developed countries, like you mentioned, in Germany, USA, UK, all that. Okay, so but in Nigeria, you see that it's not that it cannot be applied in Nigeria, but you see, one of the basic things that will enhance the implementation of any of these appropriately, starting from the 3D, it has to do with maybe the scope of work. You discover that it's taking a decision, I mean, void of bias. I mean, doing something with sincerity, the materials you need, you say you need 12 or 16 somebody will quickly, secretly go and buy 12 you are already reducing the standard. Buy cheaper ones, higher, lower, strength. Buy, instead of 2 trips of chippings, 60 ton, you go and find a way to buy 40 ton. Cutting corners. To me, I think why Nigeria, it will be very, very difficult now for Nigeria to be able to imbibe even the 3D and practice it professionally well is because of insincerity. Is because of selfishness. Let me use the word selfishness. Because everybody is just looking for his own pocket. Even some of these decisions, sorry to say, that you make in time. You say you bring bridge, you bring covered, and you bring French, you bring it to those top authorities. You discover one thing, they will just ask you, this one, to take the bridge, will cost how much will it cost to make? They would measure 15 billion. This one will cost how much? 500,000. My friend, can it have? Yes. You are sure that this thing can really start? Yes. My friend signed 50 million and give them back. That is the situation we find ourselves, because it's not as if this thing could not have been done.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
Then number two thing I think that is really crippling this thing is, you know, non-implementation of policies. Sometimes Nigeria have a level good policies that could, if well enforced, can help business to thrive. But now, if the man, number one man in the up, is not obeying law, how will every other person obey? If you arrest anybody, you say commissioner is my brother. You have to release me because commissioner is my relative, and they will release him because not governor. Not, so why will this thing work when no policy can be implemented? Look at building collapse up and down here and there. No, they are only talking about building collapse because when building collapse, you kill people. Road collapse is also there. That one can never be counted. They have never started. Developed countries, they are talking about road collapse. So if a road is giving 100 years or bridge is giving 100 years, for example, and then the thing collapse within 50 years, they will probe why. The person that did it is a problem. Every other person is a problem. But now, we are not even talking of road, we are talking of building, and nobody is being held accountable. They will not hear anything like that. Then the next thing is decision bodies that make decision. Look at, sorry to say, but the politics have really ruined everything in Nigeria. You see, so you see that the commissioner of work will now become a lawyer that have never done anything, know anything about construction. How can that ministry thrive? How can that ministry thrive? Both in the headquarters and in the states, the same thing applies. Lawyer, barrister, banker, engineer go and take lead of a bank, the whole Apex Bank of Nigeria, Central Bank of Nigeria. It's an engineer that is currently the acting CBN governor. He's an engineer. What are you doing? No, not that you cannot work there. But Oga, what are you doing as is you understand my point now? Let's call a spade, and then that's what is happening. If you see that at the time of Goodluck Jonathan, things a little our economy tends to try because we are dealing on the economy and focusing on the economy. What makes economy to try is once we remove some elements of selfishness. That's the truth. Because now the truth is that the goal of every worker on earth is to make money for economy. The fact everybody want money, that in a short form, everybody want money. Money is like the god of this world. Even to the extent that the time we are talking, which is the fourth dimension, have also been converted to money because time is money. Are you getting that? Every other thing, quantity is money, quality is money, everything translates back to money. So at the end of the day, money is everything we need to construct. And then this money, people are greedy about it and nobody wants it. So my question is, how do we get ahead in Nigeria as a country on this issue?
Okay, thank you very much, team lead. You see, what has been the question you have raised is the question that most of these countries, few of these countries that have been able to, migrate from the tradition, from the conventional, methods to this new method of AEC. Now, it is true that policies have a great influence on the implementation of selected alternative because like we have said somebody could just be, maybe by means of ethical or nepotical consideration by nepotism will just say no, this is what I want to be done. So it is true. However, my my humble suggestion would be that we keep on striving because at some point our voices will be heard. Now, before the US, I read some documents that had to do with being implementation in the US. Before they could enact laws that ensure that any contractor that is holding a public project must submit the three-dimensional, the four-dimensional, and the three-dimensional aspects of that project. It had to be, there was a revolution among the construction people. There was implementation in the private sector. The private sector got abreast with the whole thing. And then after some point, they realized that projects that were not properly analyzed in terms of authenticity had a cheap they were cheap solutions. That they could not sustain the solution for a longer time. And so because the government saw that they were losing, because they would build their bridge and then after 1 month the bridge will be dancing. And now say no, it has to be some other measures. So I think um, it had to come from the top. It had to come from the Senate. The Senate had to pass the House of the Representatives, the House of the houses of representatives had to pass a legislation to say this is what must be done in our country. And of course, ACL is a company that is doing well in excellence project management, but on its own, maybe with even a few others, we cannot really implement this on a large scale. It behoves that the government will step in to actualize these things. So, like we said, we keep on praying for good leaders, leaders that are visionary, leaders that are thinking forward. Because if we keep on preferring solutions that will not last, we keep on wasting money. We keep on wasting public, and after some time, we keep on going back to borrow, and then they look at us. Where are your engineers? Where are your this? Where are your this? So we keep on praying, but where it all begins from is by the time the various what we are saying here, ACL is privileged to have implementation of BIM in their activity. But there are a lot of companies out there, the construction industry out there, that do not even consider three-dimensional or four-dimensional aspect of it. They just feel we just get the money and then we hit the ground running. No. There has to be a specification. This project, you straight it out on a table. On if it starts 2023 and it's expected to end 2026, what stage will this project be by November 2025? What do we expect to see by December 2025? So by the time by the time these techniques are brought in, we'll be able to implement properly. Because at the point, we'll find out that this particular solution cannot offer us this return at this particular time. This particular solution can help us, can even be better. So we know how to make a guided alternative selection. So first of all, it starts from the top to the grassroots. But also the grassroots also has to be, the capacity has to be built enough to be able to to move with the tide of that wave of development. So that is my submission from the top and also from the private involvement.
Duly asked and all the answers thoroughly given. Whereas there was an absolutely marvelous presentation by the distinguished presenter, whereas everybody greatly understands the topic, greatly assimilated every bit of the tutorial, lectures, or presentation, whereas everybody is now satisfied with the outcome of this lecture, whereas everybody is expecting for this lecture to continue for posterity in the ACL, not only in Uyo but the general ACL body. Whereas this lecture has gone into the archives as one of the presentations that have made to meet the world-class standards. Whereas ACL will continue to thrive in all their endeavor to ensure that the economy is always being put in place and all the guidelines duly followed. Whereas ACL is the pioneer in this BIM implementation. Whereas we are believing God for government policies and the personalities to continue to thrive in this direction. I have my humbly submission.
Finally, I can move. Heavy movie.
That this lecture goes to become one of the best that we have presented in the course of this team building session. Let's once more congratulate the presenter, the presentation for next week, Friday, presenter. Thank you very much, everyone, for being part of this presentation today. And God bless everyone.
Amen.
Thank you very much.